Hello, guys. It's Caleb, and today we're going to be talking about some college football and the big stories right now. I have a guest with me today, and that is well, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Keith Crownover. I happen to be Caleb's grandfather, and I am a huge Penn State football fan, been my entire life. So that's who I am. And I live in the Altoona area, close to State College. I've had season tickets for many years, and Caleb and I have gone to a few games together. It's been fun.
Well, speaking of Penn State, why don't we go off with a big starter? What do you think about well, not jump that far. What do you think what happened from the two-seat team that we saw at the beginning of this year to what is happening right now?
Well, I heard it described this weekend as, I think, in the best way, that it was expectations and reality, and they didn't line up. Expectations were we were ranked number two in the country. This was going to be our year to get a national championship. Those were the expectations, very high. And reality, of course, has been very low. So, not sure what happened to our screen. Did I
Yeah,
lose you?
so the after the three losses, we had one of a pretty big firing, James Franklin. What do you think about that?
Well, it was stunning. But yet I can see both sides. In my career, I've had some disappointments, and I felt sorry for him as a man because I just want to be a failure, not just a man as well, of course, but as a person who's worked hard my whole life, it's very sad and tragic whenever you don't realize the success you want. So on that level, it was very sad. As a fan, I want my team to do well, and Franklin did a good job. We were doing pretty well, right? We just couldn't get over the hump, as people were calling it. We couldn't beat the big teams, the teams that we hadn't beaten before, and the top 10 teams. And I can see the wisdom in saying, you know what, it's not going to get better in time, and something had to be done. And I think most importantly, they said he was losing the fans, and what they mean by that is his last game, Northwestern, people arrived late, people didn't show up at all, and people left early. So the fans were quitting on the team because they were disappointed with the results. And as you know, Penn State has a $700 million stadium enhancement going on, and they need people to be happy because they need people to buy season tickets. And if people aren't happy, they won't buy season tickets. And if they don't have season tickets, they won't be able to afford the stadium change. So a lot there, but it's both good and bad. It's sad to see a person lose their job, but at the same time, there's a big responsibility. And as I know from my time in business, sometimes we have to put the organization ahead of the person, and that's painful. But that's sort of my my thoughts on the James Franklin firing.
Okay, so that yeah, I agree that as a fan, you just want your team to win and you just I understand the ways that people have felt about it. Um Also, big news, Drew Aller. What is
Yeah.
happening there? As you say, how would you talk about that there?
Well, again, there's sadness in that it's Drew Aller. I don't doubt is a fine young man. Seemed to carry himself well. Seemed to be a good person, and he put his heart into playing. Um, and he had a tragic end to a season. So, as a person, I feel that. If I take the critic view, I say, well, wait a minute. When we lost those big games, he was quarterback and we didn't do so well. He did poorly in those big games. So I feel bad because none of us are perfect and we hold our sports heroes up to a level that is unrealistic sometimes. So I wish the best for Drew. Many people think that he's in the Penn State offensive system isn't designed for a quarterback like him. He's more of an NFL type quarterback, stand back and throw the ball, and not so much of a and the offensive coordinator Andy Kodanicki likes a running quarterback, and there's some people are saying that's what happened. But again, I wish the best for Drew. I hope he ends up being drafted. I'm sure he will in the NFL, and I hope he has a great career.
Yeah, so I agree. Like, I think that it's hard for him because he stayed there saying that, oh, I think I can do a great job this year, and it's hard for him to sit back and stay with his team for another year and then go down on a season-ending injury, which is really hard for him. And as a fan, I'm like, I understand that people are blaming, oh, he did this to lose us this game. Yes, but also people make mistakes, like you said. Everyone's not perfect. He he did a great job. He just got hurt and he made a few mishaps and I don't know what we can do about that. But I I want to talk about Indiana. What do you think about Indiana right now? Big
Well,
team right
first
now.
of all, it's surprising, right?
Yeah.
Again, as a lifelong college football fan, Indiana usually was an automatic win for Penn State, and they're doing very well. What's interesting is, and I don't know if you know this, but the coach who is at Indiana University started off at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a college which is about an hour from me in the Altoona area, and it was a Division II or Division III school, and that's where Kurt Signetti really sort of came on the national scene. So he went from Indiana, University of Pennsylvania, IUP, we call it, where most people had never even heard of him. Then he went to James Madison, which is a pretty good program, and then he was hired at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, the Big Ten school. And he made a famous quote, which I laugh at when I think about it. He said, "All I do is win. Google it." And he's right. He's done very well, and he should be thankful that Penn State fired Franklin because he was considered the favorite for the job. So what did Indiana do? He was making about $8 million a year, and so that he would stay, they increased it to $11 million a year. So he's counting his money all the way to the bank because he's done very well. He's been a predictable winner, and Penn State has Ohio State this week, coming week's a bye week, then Ohio State, and then Indiana at Penn State at home. So it's going to be very tough the next two games for Penn State. And Indiana will be a tough one because we're used to beating them all the time. Ohio State, not so much.
Well, speaking of Ohio State, Ohio State has done very well for the past many seasons. I know you don't like to talk about Ohio State because Penn State, obviously, but what do you think about them so far?
You're right. I almost said, do we have to? When you said, let's talk about Ohio State. You know what? This is sort of what makes all of this. One thing that flows through this whole conversation, Caleb, is fans are passionate, right? We Penn State fans are passionate for our team. We want them to win. We want them to do well. If they don't, we get angry. If someone like Ohio State has our number and beats us nearly every time, we don't like them. Similar if somebody were a Eagles fan and they didn't care for the Giants, perhaps, or vice versa. Um, we get uh, caught up in those emotions, but you can't argue that Ohio State's a phenomenal team. They have a phenomenal program. There's a saying: the rich keep getting richer, and Ohio State keeps doing very well. They keep recruiting well. Since they recruit well, they do well, and it's an ongoing cycle. So I'd love for us to break that hold they have over us, but I don't think it'll be this year. I think it'll be a few years yet uh, until we're able to pull that off again.
Yeah, I think that's going to take a couple of years, couple of seasons rebuild for us, but I think we can pull it off. It's just gonna take a minute or two. I think that we personally should have. I think we should have beat Oregon, but I definitely think we should have beat UCLA. I think we should have beat Northwestern. I think we should have beat um who was it that we played?
Iowa.
Iowa. I think we should have beat all of these people. It's just a oh we lost to a team that was a top 10 team and then we were like, "Oh." dang it, we lost because we were on a 3-win streak. Then we were like, oh no, we lost again because we just didn't know how to put ourselves together. And then we're like, oh no. And then Northwestern, man. And now we fired James Franklin, and now we have lost Drew Aller. And we should the I watched most of the game. We had a very very good chance at winning that game. We against Iowa. It just was came down to who which team wanted it more. I mean, every team wanted it more. We put a great effort in. We just needed to step up our game, you know? Uh,
Yeah. There's a saying, don't let Oregon beat you twice. In this case, Oregon beat us maybe three times or four times, right? Because we lost three times so far. We lost after that game. I attend the Penn State games generally with my son, Ben, and he said when Penn State tied the game at the end of regulation, towards the end of regulation, he said we should go for two and avoid overtime. And we can always say that in hindsight, but what a difference it would have made if we had beaten Oregon, right? It would have changed the whole um, discussion from one of being, oh, you can't win the big ones to having some success. And so much of sports, as you know, is confidence, right? If you believe in yourself, if you know you can do it, you can do great things. You can do better things than if you're doubting yourself. And others have said that Penn State was so afraid that that weight of saying we never win the big games was sort of like working on them and making them play too tight. They weren't playing confident. They weren't playing fast. They weren't playing um, with enthusiasm. You know, sometimes in sports, it's good to be a little bit arrogant because you have to believe you're better than the other person and you have to believe that you can beat them. And once you start worrying about, am I good enough? You've already lost the battle in some ways.
yeah. What do you think our coaching situation has to happen now? Like now that we've lost James Franklin, we have moved our coaching staff around a little bit. Do you think we recruit a new person? Do we, what do you think we do here?
Well, it's changed so much in college football. I mean, it's one of those things where what do you do? And there's so many coaches being fired this year. Florida's coach was fired today. So there's going to be a lot of open coaching positions. It's a completely different world in college football. The recruits can transfer between schools at any time they want, which wasn't the case before. So whoever we hire as our next coach has to be very good at one, re-recruiting the people who have committed to Penn State, many of whom have decommitted or opened up their commitment, as they call it, and also looking at the transfer portal to say, how do we fill these holes? Because it's more than Drew Aller, it's more than James Franklin. Our defense seems to be pretty anemic, and we need big defensive linemen.
Yeah, and I don't think we've lost. I mean, here and there we have some of our defense has gone out. And yes, some of them were pretty good players. Some of them were real factors on our defense. I think that personally, the first 3 games, our defense did very well. And then we went and Oregon beat us 4 times. And not just like our quarterback, which I call him Grunk because, it's a pretty long name to
Easier.
say. Yeah. But he did fairly well. He did okay. I think that personally, I think that we can figure out what to do. I feel like we need to definitely scout for sure because we need new players. But one factor that I do think is crazy is that we have the highest paid, what was it, defensive coach, right? In the Big Ten, which I think he's done the first 3 games well, then Oregon, and then it all. And it's
Well,
not
that brings
just
up a couple of interesting questions, Caleb. So one thing is, we played teams that were weaker than us, right? We played Villanova, Nevada, and um, Florida School, I believe.
Yeah.
Escaping me right now. I actually have the schedule right in front of me. We played Florida International University. So we started with Nevada, Florida International, then Nevada, or then Villanova, excuse me. And one question is it better to play what people call cupcakes, easy wins, or is it better to challenge yourself as we have in years past? We opened with West Virginia 2 years, we opened with Auburn 2 years. And in those years, we had to be ready for those games. And we couldn't hold anything back. And there was no making excuses. You had to be ready week one. We still played cupcakes, but we didn't open the season with them. So this season, everyone's saying, well, we should have crushed Nevada. We should have crushed FIU. I didn't even remember the name of the school. We should have crushed Villanova. And we didn't. And we made excuses. Well, we're trying new things, whatever. But it's sort of an interesting question in all sports. To get better, play the best. And if you don't play the best, you're not going to, it's not as easy to get better. So that's one takeaway, I think, in that whole process is make sure you're not fooling yourself by playing down to your competition and develop your strengths and make sure that you don't again do a sleepwalk through a schedule and then you play someone like Oregon and you get overwhelmed because you haven't played anyone as tough as they've been. So
Yeah. So I think personally, my dad has said this for many years. We play to the people across from us, not to our skill level. Our skill level, we can beat whoever we put our minds to, whatever effort level we put in,
right.
what we want. Now, people like let's say we play Northwestern, for example. We do not play to our highest potential. We should, like you say, like literally destroy them. But
Yeah.
because we play who's against us, like we if we played, like I think that it's a true thing that we play who's against us and at their skill level. And if we put more skill level, we don't put a lot more skill level there. We put some more skill level. We put what we think can get us in, not burn all our skill level, but actually give us the win. Which, honestly, burning skill level is not a thing. Just put what you can out there. Ray Lewis, I think, is the example. Every single game he played, I know you're a Steelers fan, so Ray Lewis is not one that you know, Ravens, but Ray Lewis put everything out there every single game. He even if it was his last game, he would put every single blood, sweat, tears on that field. He did everything he could. Like, I just think that we just played to our level. And I know I'm repeating the same things many times, but I really do think so. So,
No, I think you're right. And look at it this way. You talked about Ohio State. Ohio State beat Grambling, I believe, this year, 77-0. So that tells you something about the intensity, the mindset of the team. We could say that's mean, that's cruel. I've been to games where Penn State beat Cincinnati 83 to nothing or 81-0 once. So we've done that too. But it's like you're saying, you play to the level of your competition, or you say, what are we going to let's set the bar against ourselves and say, are we playing our absolute best? And a school like Grambling's a small school. A school like Nevada, FIU, Villanova are small schools when it comes to football. So I was hoping when the season started, we'd come out and crush these guys and just become a juggernaut. And it didn't happen. So people were saying, why? Was it coaching? Was it this? Was it that? I think it shows that if you don't play up to your competition, or better yet, play up to your standard of your very best, then when you run into somebody who's playing to their very best, like Oregon, you're going to have a loss.
yep. So, I think that is what we need to work on. And you were talking about our defense, but I want to focus on the 4 or 5 or maybe 3 sometimes in the trenches. What do you think we could do better in the trenches there to give the pressure to that quarterback?
You're saying the defensive line to pressure the quarterback, the opposing quarterback.
It's a strange question, but it's something that you need to have that to get interceptions. You need
Yeah.
pressure because you unless your quarterback is can't see any other place in the field and they are not just, oh, I can't see anything, I'm getting pressured. They're just lobbing it up so that they hope that somebody's going to catch it. And then there's not you need that pressure. And for a factor of defense, you need those trenches to work.
Yeah. And one of the things I didn't realize until just recently is that despite being a football fan my whole life, is how important the defensive line is. We all say, well, sure, you got to win the battle of the trenches, but how rare great defensive linemen are. And Penn State's had plenty of great defensive linemen. And we have guys now who are good, but you need more than one or two. You need four across, three across the front, depending on your formation, and they need to be disruptors. And that is what I've been told is that is the hardest position to recruit because there are so few players that are excellent at the defensive line. So that's sort of many of them live in the South. So that's why the SEC has an advantage of defensive linemen because they're able to recruit in the South, where, again, for whatever reason, it seems like there are more big, good defensive linemen in the South than there are here in the Northeast. We've had them before. We can get them again. These things are cyclical, but I think the real key you brought up an excellent point because how much did we pressure Iowa's quarterback? He didn't throw much last night, but how much did we pressure him? Not at all. How many sacks did we get against Oregon? I don't think we got one. And if you aren't pressuring a quarterback and they have great receivers and a quarterback with a great arm, you're going to lose the game. And that's not an overnight fix. And we can fire the coach every week if we want to. But you have to have, they say it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmy and Joes. Have you ever heard that one?
Yep.
Uh, so it's about the players and making sure that yes, you need the X's and O's, you need to understand the game, but you also need to have the talent on the field who
Can
that
execute that.
strategy can fit together.
Yeah, so all right.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you when Penn State wins the next national championship.
Up, I will.